What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today we're talking about the 10 cheapest states to buy a house in 2025. Let's be real, housing prices across the country are out of control, and for a lot of people, owning a home where they currently live just isn't possible. But that doesn't mean you're out of options. Some states are still surprisingly affordable, with median home prices that are tens of thousands of dollars below the national average. And in this countdown, I'm going to show you exactly where those deals are, from number 10 all the way down to the cheapest state in America. Number 10, Missouri. When we talk about Missouri in 2025, we're talking about one of those states that always flies under the radar but consistently punches above its weight in affordability. Right now, the median home price sits around $198,000, which is nearly $120,000 less than the national median. That means if you're working an average job, say trucking in Kansas City or customer service in Springfield, you're not stuck renting forever. Here's a detail most people don't realize. Missouri is one of only a handful of states where small-town real estate appreciation has actually outpaced urban appreciation. Places like Savannah, north of St. Joseph, saw double-digit growth in property value while still keeping homes under $160,000. Why? Because retirees and remote workers have started snapping up these properties for their space and peace while still being close to larger metros. You also have to think about Missouri's geography. It's literally the crossroads of America, bordered by 8 states, which keeps transportation costs low and manufacturing strong. That's a hidden economic stabilizer that prevents wild housing crashes. If you're looking for quirky affordability, check Independence on the Kansas City side, historic homes, massive yards, and median prices under $180K. For younger buyers, St. Louis's South Side neighborhoods are seeing an influx of startups and tech-adjacent jobs that keep housing demand steady. Missouri isn't flashy, but it's cheap, solid, and surprisingly future-proof. Number 9, Indiana. Here's something people don't think about when they look at Indiana. This state has one of the lowest property tax rates in the entire Midwest. That means even if you score a modest house around the median value of $190,000, your annual costs are hundreds lower than in Illinois or Michigan. For 2025, Indiana is sitting on this strange balance. Wages are up slightly thanks to healthcare and manufacturing jobs, but housing prices remain stubbornly below the national curve, increasing only 11% last year compared to the U.S. average of 16%. If you're strategic, Fort Wayne is one of the hottest bargains. You're talking about homes around $165,000 with fiber internet and a growing remote worker scene. Now here's a fun detail most outsiders miss. Indiana is quietly becoming a logistics hub, second only to Kentucky in the region, with Amazon, FedEx, and UPS building massive distribution centers. That means long-term job stability, and stable jobs equal stable home values. Rural Indiana is even cheaper, but here's the catch. Land availability is tied directly to agriculture, which still makes up 16% of the economy. Translation: small farming towns like Peru or Marion keep homes under $120,000 but don't expect job variety. Another overlooked bonus, Indiana doesn't have huge climate risks like hurricanes or wildfires, which means your insurance premiums are dramatically lower compared to states like Florida or California. That right there can save a homeowner thousands over a decade. If you're after affordability with long-term staying power, Indiana deserves a hard look. Number 8, Ohio. Ohio is the kind of state that people love to mock online, but in 2025 it's one of the smartest bets for cheap livable housing. Median home value? Just $185,000, a full $130,000 less than the national number. That's staggering when you consider that Ohio still has 3 metro areas with Fortune 500 headquarters: Columbus, Cincinnati, and Cleveland. This is a state where you can buy in a suburb of a major city for less than the price of a studio apartment in New York. The big secret here is Northeast Ohio, particularly Youngstown and Warren. These cities were crushed when the steel industry collapsed, but today investors and younger families are swooping in because homes can still be found for under $120,000, and that's not a teardown, that's a 3-bedroom with a yard. Another overlooked piece of Ohio's puzzle is infrastructure. This state has more interstate highway mileage than most states its size, and it borders Lake Erie, giving it cheap shipping access. Those aren't just boring stats, they keep energy and transportation costs low, which trickles down to real estate affordability. Ohio also boasts one of the strongest community college and trade school networks in the country, which keeps a steady working-class population that buys homes instead of renting long-term. And if you want stability, Columbus is practically booming, fueled by tech investments like Intel's new semiconductor facilities. That kind of growth tends to ripple outward into cheaper surrounding counties, so you could buy in places like Newark or Lancaster now and see 20% appreciation within 5 years. Number 7, Kansas. Kansas in 2025 is one of those states where affordability isn't just about price, it's about predictability. Right now the median home price is around $178,000, but here's the kicker. Kansas hasn't experienced the crazy housing bubbles other states have. Prices here rise at a steady 2-4% annually, which makes it one of the most stable markets in the U.S. That's why retirees love it. No wild swings, no heartburn. What people don't realize is that Kansas is sitting in the middle of America's renewable energy revolution. This state is a top 5 wind energy producer, and those giant turbine projects bring jobs, infrastructure, and families that need homes. That stabilizes even small-town markets like Dodge City or Garden City. And here's something you probably didn't know. Kansas has some of the cheapest homeowners insurance premiums in the country, despite tornado alley fears. The reason? Low crime rates in rural counties and consistently lower rebuilding costs compared to coastal states. That can knock $500 to $800 a year off your home budget. Now if you're city-minded, Kansas City, Kansas, not to be confused with its Missouri twin, is still dirt cheap compared to most urban areas with median values under $200K for full-size homes. Overland Park gets pricey, but Topeka and Wichita are still gold mines if you're under $180K. Bottom line, Kansas is boring to some, but boring in real estate means stable, predictable, and affordable, and that's what makes it one of the smartest states to buy into this year. Number 6, Alabama. Alabama in 2025 is sitting at a sweet spot for affordability that most people overlook. With a median home value of $172,000, this state ranks as one of the cheapest in the South, and that's despite the fact that cities like Huntsville and Birmingham are experiencing massive economic expansions. Huntsville, in particular, has been dubbed Rocket City for its NASA and aerospace presence, and that influx of tech jobs usually pushes prices higher. But Alabama still manages to undercut neighboring states like Georgia and Florida by tens of thousands of dollars. Here's a detail most outsiders miss. Alabama is one of the rare states where housing affordability pairs with low utility costs. Thanks to an abundant natural gas supply and low state taxes, residents here pay about 20% less for monthly utilities compared to the national average. Over 10 years of homeownership, that adds up to thousands saved. Rural Alabama is even cheaper. Counties in the Black Belt or northern Appalachian foothills still list homes under $120,000. Another thing to note, Alabama is attracting retirees faster than you think. Why? Low property taxes, the second lowest in the country, mild winters compared to the Midwest, and proximity to the Gulf Coast without the outrageous Florida price tag. Mobile and Baldwin County are growing fast, but still manageable under $200K. If you want the perfect balance of affordability and opportunity, Alabama is quietly becoming the go-to state. Don't wait too long, because with aerospace, biotech, and automotive growth, those prices could start creeping upward. Number 5, Iowa. Now, Iowa doesn't make flashy headlines like Texas or Florida, but if you're hunting for affordability in 2025, this state is an absolute sleeper pick. The median home value sits around $168,000, which is practically a steal compared to the national median hovering near $320,000. But here's the part nobody thinks about. Iowa has one of the most stable housing markets in the entire Midwest because its economy isn't tied to just one industry. Agriculture is huge. Yes, it's America's #1 corn producer, but Iowa is also a leader in renewable energy, especially wind power, generating over 60% of its electricity from turbines. That steady economic base prevents housing crashes and keeps values predictable. And while the population is only about 3.2 million, Iowa is surprisingly urban in certain areas. Des Moines is booming with finance and insurance jobs, Cedar Rapids has a growing tech corridor, and Iowa City is an education hub thanks to the University of Iowa. What's wild is that in smaller towns like Sioux City or Council Bluffs, you can still buy 3-bedroom homes for under $150,000, which is unheard of in most of the country. Plus, Iowa consistently ranks among the safest states in the U.S., which lowers insurance premiums dramatically, something first-time buyers rarely factor in but should. If you're thinking about climate risks, Iowa does deal with flooding near the Mississippi, but it's far less disaster-prone than coastal states. For people who want cheap, safe, and steady, Iowa offers an underrated bargain that might not last much longer. Number 4, Oklahoma. When you think about Oklahoma, the first things that come to mind are tornadoes and oil rigs. But in 2025, what should come to mind is affordable real estate. The median home price here is just $155,000, which makes Oklahoma one of the last truly cheap states where even a modest income can get you into homeownership. Tulsa, for example, has neighborhoods where entire houses sell for less than what some people pay for a year of rent in New York or San Francisco. Oklahoma's affordability is directly tied to its resource-based economy: oil, natural gas, and agriculture. These sectors don't always make the state glamorous, but they provide a steady stream of blue-collar jobs, which translates into a population that buys modest homes instead of overinflated McMansions. And here's a detail most people overlook. Oklahoma has some of the cheapest electricity rates in the entire nation thanks to its energy production. That makes monthly homeownership costs much lower than the sticker price suggests. But it's not just utilities. You also get some of the lowest property taxes in the U.S., meaning long-term costs stay manageable. Now the catch, Tornado Alley is real. Insurance premiums can be higher in certain counties, but because building costs are lower, it still works out cheaper than hurricane-prone states like Florida or Louisiana. Smaller cities like Lawton, Shawnee, and Enid are where you'll find the deepest bargains, with homes dipping under $140,000. Bottom line, Oklahoma is dirt cheap, and unless energy prices crash, housing here will stay affordable and steady. Number 3, Arkansas. Arkansas is one of those states that gets overlooked in almost every conversation about real estate, and that's exactly why the bargains here are still massive in 2025. The median home price is just $150,000, putting it among the lowest in the nation. What people don't realize is that Arkansas is quietly one of the most naturally beautiful states in the South, with the Ozark Mountains, hot springs, and a ton of outdoor recreation that keeps tourism flowing. That tourism matters because it brings in $6 billion annually, which helps stabilize local economies in small towns where homes are incredibly cheap. In Fort Smith or Texarkana, it's not unusual to find 3-bedroom homes for under $120,000, and you're not sacrificing safety or infrastructure to get it. Even Fayetteville and Bentonville, home to Walmart's headquarters, offer homes far cheaper than the national average, though competition is growing fast thanks to job growth in logistics and retail. Another underappreciated factor, Arkansas has one of the lowest costs of living in America, period. Gas is cheaper, groceries are cheaper, utilities are cheaper, which means even if you're making less money, you stretch every dollar further. For retirees on fixed incomes, that's a huge advantage. Insurance rates are lower than the Hurricane Belt, and property taxes are practically negligible compared to northern states. If you want to live in a place where your mortgage could literally be less than someone's car payment, Arkansas is it, and with population growth slowly ticking up, these bargains won't last forever. Number 2, Mississippi. Now we get to Mississippi, which just barely misses the crown as the cheapest state in 2025. With a median home price of only $142,000, you're looking at a state where entire towns have homes listed under 6 figures. That's not an exaggeration. Meridian, Gulfport, and Hattiesburg still have livable family-sized homes selling for $90,000. Mississippi's economy has always leaned heavily on agriculture and manufacturing, and while that doesn't create flashy headlines, it does create affordable housing. Something people don't talk about enough is Mississippi's incredibly low property tax rate, one of the lowest in the U.S., which makes long-term ownership shockingly cheap. Another overlooked bonus, land availability. Mississippi has one of the highest ratios of land to population in the country, which keeps housing demand manageable and prices stable. Sure, the state struggles with poverty and healthcare access, but from a pure financial standpoint, this is one of the best deals you'll ever see. Even the Gulf Coast, with its beaches and tourism, is still affordable compared to Florida or Alabama, though you'll want to factor in hurricane insurance. Fun historical fact, back in the 1800s, Natchez, Mississippi was once home to more millionaires than anywhere in America outside of New York City. Today you can buy historic homes there for pennies on the dollar compared to New England. If you're the kind of buyer who values square footage, land, and low monthly payments over flashy amenities, Mississippi gives you all that and more for less than most states' down payments. Number 1, West Virginia. Topping the list is West Virginia, which remains the cheapest state to buy a house in 2025, with a median home value of just $120,000. That's not a typo, that's literally the cost of a new SUV in some parts of the country. This is the state where affordability and beauty collide, because while the economy struggles with job losses from the decline of coal, the real estate market is a goldmine for buyers who don't need local jobs to survive. Remote workers, retirees, and digital nomads are starting to take notice, because for the price of a 1-bedroom condo in Boston, you can buy an entire 4-bedroom house with land in Beckley or Huntington. And here's what nobody tells you. West Virginia is one of the most naturally stunning states in America. We're talking Appalachian mountain views, world-class hiking, and small towns that look like postcards. That beauty is fueling a growing tourism industry, and where tourism grows, housing demand slowly follows. Another key factor is the state's low cost of living. Groceries, gas, and utilities are all below the national average, so your housing savings compound even further. Insurance rates are low compared to hurricane or wildfire states, and property taxes are among the cheapest in the country. Of course, the job market is weak, but that's why the prices are so low. If you have income coming from outside the state, West Virginia gives you a lifestyle upgrade for a fraction of the cost. Bottom line, it's the cheapest housing in the U.S., and the natural beauty is a free bonus. Alright, that wraps up our list of the 10 cheapest states to buy a house in 2025. Now, just because a place is affordable doesn't mean it's perfect. Every state on this list has its pros and cons. But if you're serious about buying a home without drowning in debt, these are the states you should be looking at right now. Which one stood out to you the most? Drop your thoughts down in the comments. I'd love to hear where you'd actually move. And don't forget, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and share this video with someone who's tired of rent prices eating their paycheck. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you in the next one.